Hello and welcome back to SpeakNest English Podcast Zone, the place where English becomes your everyday friend. In today's episode, we're going to learn how to talk about your future plans in English. This episode is perfect for students, job seekers, travelers, and everyday speakers. You'll learn how to use going to, will, and other future expressions in a natural and confident way. So, ready to step into the future? Let's go.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
How often do you actually catch yourself, talking about what happens next?
Oh, constantly.
All the time, right?
Yeah, it's really woven into just, everyday conversation. Every single time you schedule something or, make a promise.
Yeah.
You're using language to look ahead.
Exactly. And you've probably said stuff just today like, I'm going to study tomorrow. Right.
Sure. Or maybe I'll call you later.
Yeah. Or even something really simple like, we're having dinner tonight. Now, these seem pretty straightforward on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But the source material we've been looking at, it really gets into why truly understanding and mastering the different ways we talk about the future in English is, fundamentally important for you, the listener.
And what's really interesting there is that, it's not just about knowing the grammar rules. Like, okay, when do I use will versus going to, or the present continuous for future stuff?
Right, not just the mechanic.
No, the source really digs into the actual impact, the kind of power that comes from using these different forms effectively. So this deep dive, it's really about understanding why picking the right linguistic tool for a specific future job actually makes a difference in your life.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. And the source, it lays out some key areas where this skill isn't just helpful. It says it's fundamental. Let's look at the first one it brings up. Just simply scheduling your life.
Right. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the ability to clearly say what you're going to do in the future, it allows for really precise coordination. Think about, setting up that doctor's appointment or committing to a meeting time for work.
Or even just telling a friend you'll be there, I don't know, around 7.
Exactly. And the source points out that using these clear future expressions, often, linking them to specific times or maybe conditions, it isn't just describing something, it's kind of prescriptive.
Prescriptive. How so?
Well, it sets expectations, right? It lets you and others organize your world more effectively. It brings structure.
Okay, yeah. It brings order to all that potential chaos, doesn't it? You can't reliably plan anything if you can't communicate when it's supposed to happen.
Precisely.
And that flows really naturally into the next point the source emphasizes, which is talking to your friends and coworkers.
Yeah, and this raises a pretty important question, doesn't it? How do you collaborate on a project deadline? Or suggest a lunch break, or even just coordinate a weekend trip.
Right.
The source really highlights how using future language isn't just about stating a fact like this will happen. It's often about building trust and showing reliability.
Ah, okay.
So when you say something like, I'll get that report to you by noon tomorrow, using will there, it implies a decision, a commitment you've just made.
And the person listening picks up on that promise.
Exactly. Your reliability, in a way, is built on your consistent, clear use of these expressions. And think about it, misunderstandings about future plans. They're a huge source of friction, aren't they? Both at work and, personally.
Oh, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Clarity about the future creates, certainty and trust right now for everyone involved. Okay, and the final point from the source. This one really struck me. It's about making your goals and your dreams clear.
Yeah.
Not just to other people, but maybe even, to yourself.
This is maybe the most profound bit the source touches on. Talking about your future aspirations. Whether it's something like, I'm going to start learning code next month.
Or I will travel to Japan someday.
Right. Saying those things takes them from being just abstract wishes and turns them into more, concrete possibilities. The source actually suggests that the very act of putting these goals into words, using definite future language, it gives them more weight.
More structure.
Yeah, more structure makes you more likely to actually figure out the steps needed to get there. And maybe more likely to share them too, which could lead to support or, accountability.
Okay. So what does this all mean then when we pull it together? It sounds like these different ways of talking about what's coming next are actually really powerful tools.
That's it exactly.
They serve distinct, vital functions in your life.
Precisely. Understanding the nuances, like we said, not just the grammar rules, but why the source argues that using them correctly matters so much. It directly helps you schedule your life effectively.
Right. And build trust, communicate smoothly with friends, colleagues.
Yeah, and articulate your personal goals, your dreams, kind of nudging them closer to becoming reality.
So they directly impact your ability to just, well, function in the world, connect with people, and actually strive for what you want.
Indeed. As this deep dive into the source material really shows, these aren't just little grammatical points to memorize. They're fundamental skills.
Skills for what, specifically?
For organizing your reality, for building reliable connections with others, and ultimately for sharing your own vision with the world around you. It's quite significant, really.
So maybe next time you find yourself saying, I'm gonna, or I will, it's worth pausing for just a second. Just consider how much power those simple words actually hold. Not just for the next few minutes of your conversation, but maybe for shaping the whole trajectory of your life and your dream.
Today we're really zeroing in on something specific, but, pretty crucial for talking about the future in English.
Yes. Based on the material we've looked at, we're focusing right in on using going to, specifically for plans you've, already decided on.
Exactly. So our mission really is just to pull out the key info on this use of going to, how it works, what it means.
Right, so you can understand it and, importantly, use it clearly yourself.
Okay, let's jump straight in. We know English has a few ways to talk future, but the source highlights going to for one particular situation. What's that?
Well, the source makes this really clear. We use going to when the choice to do something was actually made before the moment of speaking.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a sudden idea. It really communicates that there's a prior intention. A plan is already in place.
Got it. So less about predicting something or deciding right now, and more about a plan that's already sort of baked in.
Exactly. It signals that bit of certainty because the deciding part, that's already done.
Okay. And how do we actually build a sentence like that? The structure?
Oh, the structure is quite straightforward, which is good. But you need it right for the meaning. It's subject first.
Right.
Then the right form of to be, am, is, or are.
Match to the subject, yeah.
Then going to, and after that, just the base form of the verb, the infinitive without to.
Okay, so subject.amisar.going to, base verb.
That's
Perfect. Let's make that concrete with the examples from the source. First one, I'm going to visit my grandma this weekend. What's the going to telling us there?
Well, when someone says that, I'm going to visit, it really suggests this isn't just a thought bubble popping up right now. It means they've probably already decided this, maybe checked their schedule, maybe they've even told grandma they're coming.
Okay.
The plan exists before they say the sentence. It shows commitment.
Got it. It's that signal of decision already made. Okay, how about the next one? She's going to cook dinner tonight.
Same idea, really. A plan already set. By saying she's going to cook, we understand she already decided to do that. Maybe she bought the food earlier or planned the meal. The decision point was in the past.
Okay. And the last example from the source, they're going to study for the test.
And again, it indicates a decided action. They're going to say, tells you it's likely arranged.
Like they agreed on it.
Yeah, maybe they set a time, got their books ready, whatever. It's a plan they intend to follow through on, not just, a vague possibility.
So going to, in these cases, is like a little flag saying, heads up, this is decided, locked in.
Precisely.
Okay, now for you listening, let's try and make this stick. The source suggests actually saying this phrase. Try it out loud, maybe with me. I'm going to learn English every day.
Yeah, say it. And notice when you say, I'm going to learn, it feels different, doesn't it? It has more weight than just, I will learn. Using going to here ties right back to that main point from the source. You're stating a commitment. It's based on a decision you've already made, shows real intention.
Which, brings us nicely to why understanding this specific angle on going to is actually pretty valuable for you, for communicating effectively.
Absolutely. If you think about the bigger picture, communication is so much about clarity, right? And signaling how committed you are.
Yeah.
Using going to correctly tells your listener quite clearly, this is a plan I've decided on. I intend to do this. It cuts through potential confusion.
Manages expectations.
Exactly. Manages expectations. Removes ambiguity.
Okay. So wrapping this part up then, the key takeaway from this deep dive really is going to. Is your go-to tool, you could say, for talking about plans you've already decided on.
That's the core of it, signaling that prior decision and the intention behind it.
Right. So maybe a final thought for you to take away as you go about your day or your week. Think about your own plans, the things you've already decided to do. What's one decided plan you are going to talk about using this structure? Maybe even say it out loud now. We're cracking open some source material focused on talking about the future in English. And we're zeroing in specifically on the word will.
Right. And, while parts of the source cover pretty familiar ground, grammar basics.
Yeah, stuff we've seen. But there's a really interesting observation sort of buried in there that we think is, well, the real gem.
That's right. The notes, they quickly lay out the standard uses of will.
Okay.
Mostly for promises, offers, and those decisions you make right at the moment you're speaking.
The spontaneous stuff, not like plans you made way back when.
Exactly. It's often about those spur-of-the-moment actions or commitments.
Gotcha. And the structure the source gives is, well, pretty straightforward.
Super simple. It's just subject plus will plus the base form of the verb.
Right, the base verb. That's the fundamental way to build these sentences for these specific situations.
And the source gives some pretty clear examples to show these uses. We see, I'll help you with your homework.
Okay, yeah. Classic offer of help.
It's definitely an offer. Or you get, we'll call you later.
That sounds like a clear promise.
And then there's, he'll bring the documents. Now that one
feels like it could be a few things.
Right. It could be a promise he made, or maybe an offer, or it could be reporting that on-the-spot decision. Like someone just asked and he agreed, so you say, okay, he'll bring them.
Right, okay. So those uses are foundational standard stuff.
Yeah.
But you said there was something more interesting.
Yes, exactly. This is where, for us, the source gets really insightful. It gives a practice example.
Okay.
And then it makes this fascinating comment about it. The example is, say, I'll improve my English starting today.
I'll improve my English starting today. Okay. So what's the comment?
Well, the source immediately points out that specific sentence using I'll start today, it sounds confident, strong even.
Confident and strong. Interesting.
Yeah, and it actually labels it future in action.
Future in action. Okay, unpack that a bit. What's the significance there, according to the source?
Well, what stands out, pulling directly from the source's comment, is that it's not just another example of using will.
Right.
The source highlights the feeling it creates, that confidence, that strength, that sense of starting now.
So it's suggesting that this particular way of using will, not just predicting, but declaring your own intention to start something immediately, it hits differently.
Exactly. It has a different kind of impact. The source isn't just giving a grammar rule here. It's commenting on the rhetorical power of using will like this.
Right. It's like the source is saying, using will this way. It shifts an idea from just a possibility into something decisive, a present commitment to kickstart that future right now, like hitting the launch button.
Precisely. And that connection the source makes between the grammar and the feeling, the confidence and action, that's really the key insight here.
So for you, the listener, understanding this nuance can actually help you choose your words more effectively.
Think about it. When you use will for an offer, like I'll help, or a promise I'll be there.
Or especially that kind of personal declaration, I'll start now.
Yeah, the source suggests you're not just stating a future possibility. You're injecting that immediate decisiveness and, like the source notes, that confidence.
It gives your immediate intentions some real linguistic weight, tying them firmly to the moment you speak.
So while the source covers the basics, promises, offers spontaneous decisions with will, the real deep dive it allows is into this future in action idea.
And the confidence it signals. It's about the impact of the grammar, not just the rule itself.
Exactly. Putting it all together, the source shows will is your go-to for those immediate connections between now and the very near future. Offers, promises, decisions.
Right. And maybe most powerfully, as the source observes with that, I'll improve my English starting today line, it's a structure for declaring your intention with real conviction, kicking off that future in action.
Which I think raises a really interesting final thought based purely on what the source material highlighted.
Okay, what's that?
Well, consider this. If the source specifically points out that using will in a phrase like I'll improve makes it instantly sound confident and action-oriented, turning an idea into an immediate declaration.
Yeah.
What does that observation tell us about how simply choosing a specific word, a structure like I'll, can potentially shape not just how we describe the future, but maybe how we perceive our own intent, our capability, even the act of beginning itself?
So how that precise language might influence our approach to our own goals.
Something to think about as you use English to talk about, well, what comes next? So today we're jumping into something interesting, how we talk about the future in English.
Right.
We've got some source material that really focuses on two key phrases, going to and will.
Yeah, those two. They seem similar, but they're not quite the same, are they?
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack what these sources say, help you figure out the subtle differences.
So you can use them with a bit more precision, maybe? Get that intention across clearly?
Precisely. So the sources highlight this idea that while both point to the future, they give off a different feeling.
A feeling about why something's happening or maybe how decided it is?
Okay, so let's dig into that distinction. The sources seem to draw a line based on when the decision was made. Let's start with going to.
Okay.
The material suggests going to is what we use for plans that are, already sorted out, decided before you even start talking.
Exactly. The sources give this example, I'm going to travel to Italy. And the idea there is it signals that the decision, it's already made. It's not happening now.
It's a plan. Maybe you've booked flights or just, mentally committed weeks ago.
Yeah, it's fixed. Like that other example they use, I'm going to watch a movie tonight.
That feels pretty set, too. Like, you've checked the listings, decided. That's the plan for the evening.
That's the feeling the source material points to. Going to has this weight of a prior decision. Certainty.
It feels quite solid.
It does. Because the choice part is already done.
Okay, so if going to links back to a past decision, how does will fit in, according to these sources? How's it different?
Well, this is where the spontaneity factor comes in. The sources say will is often for decisions made right now. Like at the moment you're speaking.
On the spot.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Less about a pre-existing plan, more about a current choice.
So like their example, I think I'll travel to Italy. That I think and the will, it changes things, doesn't it?
Completely. The source uses that exact phrase to show, a decision that's just forming.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an idea that just popped up or you're responding to something someone said. It feels less locked in.
Less certain than I'm going to travel.
Definitely less certain. It's emerging right now.
And the other example, maybe I'll watch a movie.
Perfect illustration, right? That
Yeah.
maybe plus will screams not decided yet.
Yeah, very different from I'm going to watch a movie.
Exactly. The sources connect will, used this way, to that feeling of, well, maybe uncertainty or just being decided in the moment.
So the core thing, the takeaway from these sources seems to be this timing element.
Right. Was the decision made before you spoke? Use going to. It feels planned.
Or are you deciding as you speak? Then will often fits better, feels more spontaneous, maybe less definite.
And it's fascinating how this small grammatical choice, reflects your actual decision-making process.
It really changes the flavor of what you're saying about the future.
It does. It tells the listener something about the status of that plan in your mind.
So for you listening, paying attention to this could actually make your communication, sharper.
Yeah, think about it when you're talking. Was this already decided or am I figuring it out now?
And listen out for it. Notice how people around you use going to versus will, or even how you use them without thinking.
That self-awareness is key.
And that kind of leads to a final thought to maybe chew on.
Oh.
Well, if you start thinking about when you made the decision before speaking or right now, does that just change your grammar? Or does it maybe reflect something deeper, like about how you actually approach planning versus being spontaneous in your life? Is it just words or is it a window into how you operate?
That's an interesting question. Language reflecting process, something to think about. Jumping into something pretty fundamental, how we talk about the future.
Yeah, and specifically looking beyond the usual suspects, like going to or will.
Right. We want to explore some other, maybe more nuanced phrases English offers.
And we're basing this on source material that really digs into these different ways we express future plans or intentions.
Exactly. So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to get a better handle on the subtle differences and what they tell us about certainty. How sure are we that something's going to happen?
It's about seeing these phrases as tools, really. Tools for being more precise. And what's interesting is how these, seemingly small word choices actually pack a punch. They reveal quite a bit about the speaker's perspective, their commitment, maybe how much control they feel they have.
Their confidence level, yeah. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our source material points out that English is, pretty flexible here. It gives us several key phrases.
Yeah, each with a slightly different flavor.
Okay, first one up. I'm planning to. The example given is, I'm planning to start a podcast.
Right. So planning to, that signals a pretty definite intention, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it sounds like you've thought about it, maybe taken some steps already.
Exactly. It's moved beyond just an idea. You're actively working towards it or, committing resources, maybe time. So certainty-wise, that's quite high up the scale.
Okay, solid plan. Got it.
Yeah.
But what about things we want to happen, or maybe we don't have full control over?
Yes. The source brings up, I hope to.
And the example is, I hope to pass the exam.
Mm-hmm. Now, hoping to clearly signals desire. You really want that outcome.
Definitely.
But like the example shows, passing an exam, it involves your effort, sure, but also other things, right? The test difficulty, how it's marked, factors outside your direct control.
Right.
So while the desire is certain, the phrase hope to kind of acknowledges that the outcome isn't guaranteed by you alone. Certainty about the result is lower than planning to.
That's a really useful distinction. Certainty of desire versus certainty of outcome. Okay, moving on. Example. I might go out tonight. Simple one.
Yeah, might is like the classic signal for possibility, but coupled with quite a bit of uncertainty.
It could happen. It might not. Flip a coin, maybe.
Sort of. It means there's a chance, but maybe an equal or even stronger chance it won't happen. It's very tentative. If planning to is high certainty for the action happening, might is way down at the lower end.
Okay. And the last one the source highlights is I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking of changing my job.
Thinking of, that suggests active consideration. You're mulling it over.
More than just a passing thought.
Yeah, definitely more than that.
Yep.
But less firm than a plan. You're weighing it up, maybe looking into options, but there's no final decision, no commitment yet.
So where does that sit on the certainty scale?
I'd say somewhere between might and planning to. It's a serious possibility you're exploring, but it's not locked in.
Okay, so let's pull this together. The main takeaway from our source seems pretty clear.
Yeah, the source puts it concisely. Each one gives a slightly different level of certainty.
Right, that's the core idea.
Precisely. Choose planning to, and you're signaling you're actively making it happen. Use hope to, you show strong desire, but acknowledge external factors.
Might is pure possibility, no real commitment.
And thinking of means it's on your radar, you're seriously considering it, but still in that evaluation phase.
And this is why getting these nuances matters for you, listening. Choosing the right phrase helps you be much more precise.
Yeah, it manages expectations for others and maybe even for yourself.
Avoids misunderstandings, right? Someone hearing, thinking of, and assuming it's a definite planning to.
Exactly, or not grasping how much you want something when you say hope to.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the key thing is that English gives us these subtle but really powerful ways to talk about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the main difference often boils down to dialing in that level of certainty.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. Think about how consciously picking these phrases doesn't just shape how others see your future plans,
Oh, interesting.
but how saying I'm planning to versus I'm thinking of might actually affect your own sense of commitment or possibility, how language shapes our own outlook.
That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Today, we're taking a look at something, well, completely woven into how we talk every day, how we discuss future plans, what happens next.
Right. And our source is actually just a short, very natural conversation that you shared with us.
Yeah, just a quick exchange.
Oh.
And our mission for this deep dive.
It's really to unpack this, seemingly simple chat.
See what it tells us.
Exactly. What it reveals about using common things like going to and will in, well, real life.
Finding the meaning that's kind of hidden right there in front of us.
Precisely. Hidden in plain sight.
Okay, so let's get straight to this little conversation. Here it is.
Yeah.
Aisha kicks it off, asks, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?"
Okay.
And Sam replies, "I'm going to visit my uncle."
Uh-huh. Standard stuff.
And Aisha says, "Nice. I'll probably just relax at home."
Right.
And Sam wraps up with, "Cool. Let me know if you change your mind."
And that's it. Short and sweet.
But what's interesting, as you said, is just how normal this sounds.
Totally normal. You hear conversations like this, all the time, right?
Absolutely. So let's look closer. Sam's reply, "I'm going to visit my uncle."
Okay.
He uses going to there. Now, when we use going to for something in the future,
Yeah.
it often signals a plan that feels pretty sorted out already.
Right. Like it's something he decided before Aisha even asked. It has that feel of intention, a plan already made.
Exactly. A preformed plan. Now, contrast that with Aisha's response.
I'll probably just relax at home.
She uses I'll, the contraction for I will.
Mm-hmm. And she adds that little word, probably.
That's key, isn't it? Using will, especially with probably, well, it tells us something else.
Yeah, it suggests her plan isn't quite as definite as Sam's.
It might be something she's sort of deciding right there in the moment.
Or maybe just her current best guess about the weekend. Will can often pop up for those on-the-spot decisions, predictions, or things that are, less certain.
Less fixed possibilities.
Precisely. So, in just these two little lines, you get going to, suggesting something more concrete, already arranged. And then will probably signaling something less firm, maybe more spontaneous, or just what's likely to happen.
It's not just about when something happens. It's about the speaker's feeling about it, their mindset.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The certainty level.
It's quite fascinating how much subtle meaning gets packed into these small grammar choices. It's not just like ticking a grammar box.
No, not at all. It's about the nuance you communicate.
Using going to makes Sam's visit sound like, well, a done deal. While Aisha's, probably, kind of keeps her options open a bit.
Right. And look at Sam's final line, too. Let me know if you change your mind.
Oh, yeah.
He uses will, again, implicitly, like you will let me know if.
Okay.
But here, it's not about a future plan he has. It's more like an offer, maybe, or a request he's making right now.
So even in this tiny example, Will is doing a couple of different jobs.
Exactly. It's flexible.
So you can see how just paying a bit closer attention to these everyday chats helps you spot these structures, going to and will, actually being used.
And it shows how you can use them, too, to subtly signal if your own plan is, rock solid or more flexible.
It really highlights how much we convey not just with the main words, but with these, grammatical frames around them.
Yeah, the choices we make there matter.
So the core takeaway then.
Well, I think it's that these simple phrases, using going to and will, they just naturally appear when we talk about the future.
And they carry these subtle clues.
Right. Clues about whether a plan feels firm or if it's more of a likely possibility or maybe even an offer being made right then and there.
It captures those different degrees of certainty.
Exactly. So here's maybe a final thought for you just based on this little chat between Aisha and Sam.
Okay.
What else can we learn about all the incredibly subtle ways we communicate things like certainty or intention or even spontaneity?
Just by listening.
Yeah, just by really listening closely to the grammar choices people make in everyday conversations, the ones happening all around us.
How much linguistic insight is kind of hiding there in plain sight?
Something to mull over, maybe.
Definitely something to consider next time you're making plans. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Okay, so let's jump into this. For this deep dive, we've been looking at just a couple of pages of material.
Right, and it's focused on something that seems pretty straightforward on the surface.
Yeah, just how we talk about future plans, particularly in English.
The source uses examples like using going to or using will, basic stuff, really.
But the mission here, it feels like it goes a bit deeper than just grammar.
Exactly. We're trying to unpack what this material is suggesting about, well, the connection between that language we use.
And the future itself. Is that what it's hinting at?
That seems to be the core idea, yeah. The source jumps almost immediately into this pretty compelling concept.
Which is?
The power words might have, in actually shaping what happens next.
Okay. Wow. So the big question it throws out there is, can just saying your goals out loud, can that actually, influence whether they happen?
That's the puzzle, yeah. And it's interesting how it starts. It grounds us first in the familiar, like you said.
With the grammar.
Right. How we actually form those sentences about the future. I'm going to become a nurse.
Or I will move to a new city. Things like that.
Exactly. And these aren't just random examples, the source implies. They show different ways we signal things.
Like intention versus prediction.
Sort of. Going to, for instance, often suggests, a plan's already in place. A decision's been made.
Whereas will can feel a bit more spontaneous.
Yeah.
Or just a general prediction about what might be.
That's often how we use them, yeah. And the material uses these common structures, these very familiar bits of language.
As a jumping off point to get you, the listener, thinking about your own future.
Right. Where do you want to be next year? Or, maybe 5 years down the line.
And then it connects that thought process straight back to the words you might choose.
Which leads us to, honestly, one of the most striking lines in the material we looked at.
Which one's that?
Your words shape your reality. Just stayed like that.
Huh. Okay. Not just a nice saying, but presented as, what, like a principle?
It seems that way. It suggests that actually saying a goal, maybe using specific language.
Like saying, I am going to start a business.
Exactly. Rather than just, oh, maybe I'll start one someday. The source hints that this isn't just description.
But an action that could influence the outcome.
That's the implication. That the act of speaking it, especially with that more definite going to structure we use for plans, it somehow solidifies the intention in your own mind.
Okay, so it makes the goal feel less abstract, maybe more real?
Yeah, more tangible. It's less about some kind of magic and more, the source suggests, about psychological commitment.
Right. Like saying it aloud is a declaration to yourself.
Exactly. It focuses your attention, maybe primes your brain to like notice opportunities related to that goal.
And increases your own sense of accountability. Like, I said I was going to do this.
Precisely. It turns what might be just a passive wish, floating around in your head.
Into an active statement. A statement of intent.
Yeah. So the language itself becomes a kind of tool.
A tool for what? Getting your head straight. For motivation.
Internal alignment motivation.
Yeah, that fits.
Yeah.
And this is why the material doesn't just stop at explaining how we talk about the future.
It pivots. It gives a direct instruction based on this whole idea.
And it's remarkably simple, but maybe challenging to stick with.
What is it?
Speak your goals aloud every day.
Every single day. Okay.
It ties this daily act, this vocalization, directly back to the premise that words have this shaping power.
So it's suggesting a daily practice, rooted in this belief that your language isn't just describing what might happen.
But it's participating in creating it.
Yeah.
It's, on a personal level, influencing your focus, your actions.
Okay. So wrapping this up for you, the listener, what does this deep dive really point to?
Well, it highlights this really intriguing potential connection.
Between simply stating your goals clearly, maybe even using that specific future language.
And actually influencing whether or how you achieve them. That call from the source. Speak your goals aloud. Every day. It's almost like an invitation, isn't it?
It really is. An invitation to experiment, to see for yourself,
Yeah, to consider how consciously saying your plans might shift your mindset.
Or boost your motivation, maybe subtly redirect what you actually do each day towards making that future happen.
What gives you something concrete to try out based on this core idea from the material.
That the language we use for the future is active, not passive. It's doing something.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to chew on, pulled right from this source material.
If, as this suggests, the words you choose really can shape your reality.
Then what future will you consciously decide to speak into existence for yourself? Starting, maybe, today.
So today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, I think. It's about how we talk about our future plans in English.
Right, but not just what we plan to do, but sort of the feeling behind it, How certain are we? How committed?
Exactly. And our source material for this is, well, it's a set of practice sentences. Simple ones, maybe.
Yeah, they look simple on the surface.
But the idea, our mission here, is to really unpack these specific examples, see what they show us about the different tools English gives us.
It's about looking at them together as a group and seeing the range.
Okay, so let's list them out first. The source gives us these. I'm going to start reading more.
Then I'll never give up.
I hope to become fluent in English.
Also, I might take an English course next month.
And the last one. I'm thinking of joining an online class.
So, just 5 sentences.
Yeah, and I find it fascinating. Straight away, they all talk about the future, but they feel different. They use different constructions.
That's the key thing, isn't it? Even in this small sample, you get a real spectrum. From pretty decided things to just, vague ideas.
A spectrum of intention, maybe?
Yeah, or commitment. These examples aren't random. They really illustrate different points on that spectrum, showing the variety available.
Okay, let's dive into the first one then. I'm going to start reading more.
Right, so going to. Using I'm going to like this, it usually signals a plan, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like an intention, something the speaker has already sort of decided on.
Exactly, like a resolution they've made, at least in their own mind. It feels pretty firm, relatively speaking.
Definitely firmer than some of the others. A personal goal, maybe?
Compare that to the next one. I'll never give up.
Will, but with never. That feels strong.
It does. Will can be for predictions, sure, or snap decisions. But used like this, I will or I'll never, it expresses real determination.
It's like a promise.
Or a very firm resolve, yeah. It's not just here's my plan. It's more emphatic, I think, than the going to example even. It's a declaration.
Yeah, I see that. It's got punch. Okay, moving on. The source also had, I hope to become fluent in English.
Now, hope to, that introduces a different feeling altogether.
How so?
Well, it clearly signals an aspiration, a strong desire, a goal. But hope.
It implies it's not guaranteed.
Exactly. It suggests it's something you want deeply, but maybe the plan isn't fully formed or, the outcome isn't entirely in your hands.
Yeah.
There's an element of wishing.
Got it.
Yeah.
So less about a decision made, more about a desired future state. Makes sense.
Right.
What about this one? I might take an English course next month.
Might. That word immediately shifts things.
To possibility.
Yes, pure possibility, not certainty. It tells you this is something being considered, an option on the table. But, crucially, no decision's been made yet.
Definitely tentative, much less certain than going to or that strong will.
For sure. It's lower down that spectrum of commitment we talked about.
Okay, and the last one from the source. I'm thinking of joining an online class.
Right, thinking of, plus the ing form. This is very much about the process of considering something.
So similar to might, maybe?
Similar in that it's not decided, yes. But thinking of highlights the act of contemplation. The idea is currently being mulled over. It might be the most in-progress feeling of all these examples.
Wow. Okay, so just looking at those 5 sentences, it's quite revealing.
It really is. The specific phrase going to, will, hope to, might, thinking of, it totally changes the nuance, the speaker's stance towards that future idea.
It really shows the toolkit English offers, not just for what happens next, but the speaker's commitment, their feelings about it.
Precisely. Certainty, possibility, hope, determination. It's all in that choice of words. These examples are a neat snapshot of that range you have access to.
So, to recap this deep dive, by just looking closely at these specific examples, I'll never, I hope to, I might, I'm thinking of, we've seen some key ways you can frame your future plans and ideas.
Exactly. We saw structures for a decided plan, going to, for that strong determination, will, expressing a wish, hope to, showing something's just a possibility, might, or that you're still mulling it over, thinking of.
Yeah, it gives you, the listener, a quick look at the different tools available for talking about your own future.
And how you can use them to show not just the what, but the how you feel about it,
Yeah.
the level of commitment or certainty.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to ponder. Based on what we've discussed with these examples, what does the choice someone makes to say they're going to do something versus they will, or they might, or hope to, or are thinking of doing it? What does that choice really tell us about their underlying feeling towards that plan? And maybe how does it affect how others hear their intention?
That's a great question. Something to definitely think about next time you're making plans or hearing someone else make theirs.
That's the end of episode 42, talking about future plans in English. Now you know how to use going to and will talk about future hopes and decisions. Sound clear and confident about your future. In the next episode, we'll talk about talking about past events, how to use simple past, tell stories, and describe memories. Until then, stay positive, speak often, and grow every day. This is your host signing off from SpeakNest English Podcast Zone. Goodbye and see you in the future.